What is up, everybody? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, coming to you. It's 8:11 Best Coast time. It's a pleasure to see you. I know we have a lot of things to talk about. First and foremost, hello to you all. It is a pleasure to see you on a wonderful, I was going to say Tuesday night, but that's how lost I am. It is actually a Wednesday night here, and we're going to get to our guest. He's great. I don't want to go too much off on that. We'll save the pleasantries for when he gets on here. Let's give some shout outs. First and foremost, to our friends over at Dodgy Collective. They make great spats, rash guards, you name it. Look at their art. If you don't like it, tell me to my face. Don't fuck around with it. Tell me to my face that you don't like their art because you're a liar. And I don't like liars. And I want you to do it to my face if that's the case. Didn't expect that to rhyme, but it did. Second thing we're going to talk about right now, go give some love to our friends over at Manscaped. Yeah, you got to keep the business looking nice. And if you're going to buy something from them, we ask that you use the promo code VerbalTap20. Guess what it gets you? Oh, actually, it's just VerbalTap. It gets you 20% off. Guys, sorry. I host too many damn shows. At some point, they all start sticking together. VerbalTap at manscaped.com gets you 20% off. But here's the good news. Now you won't forget that. All right, let's get to our guest today. What do I say about this young man? Well, first and foremost, he is your new CJJ World Champion. He is somebody who's been giving us excellent performances on the CJJ circuit for the past year. And I've wondered what that was like during a year when literally everything could possibly be thrown at human beings and grapplers alike. And yet today we're going to get to know more about him, his journey. We're going to find out what made this whole win so special. Ladies and gents, I'm so excited to chat with our guest today, one ELIAS Anderson. ELIAS, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Feeling good.
Well, congratulations to you. I noticed we got to acknowledge this. Is that the bang that's giving you a little bit of shadow on the eye, or is that just kind of a shiner you got from the whole combat situation?
This is my nice little takeaway from the tournament. Got a couple little bruises on the lips here. I walked away with a couple battle wounds.
I will say this. You do kind of look like you could cut the world's best emo album right now if you really just committed to it, or at least a goth album. But I was so impressed by your performance over the weekend because there was kind of a marathon you were running over the weekend. It looked like while other people kind of had like, oh, I'm going to win this one in like 2 seconds, you had match that was grueling and grueling to the point where when you did win, you were so overcome with emotion. What was the first thing that went through your head when you ended up winning the whole thing?
The first thing was, just like, oh my God, that's all it was. It was just a flood of emotion. Like, wow, like I can't believe this is real. And it almost didn't feel real. It felt like there was just so much happening and all the adrenaline was just rushing in. And I was thinking, I can't believe this. Like, it was hard, like, to just like really like pull myself together. It was a tough journey to get there. So I think that's why, like you said, the emotion just flooded in. The first thing I wanted to do was just like look at my brother and be like, we did it. Like, this is crazy. I wish I could have maintained my cool, but it was too much. It was an amazing experience. I think the one thing that made it so emotional for me is just I had envisioned it so many times and, just put in like countless hours of training and just so much went into it that, when it finally happened, I felt like I could take a breath, I felt like I needed a release. I was holding everything in, just like preparing for that moment. And it was a pretty special, result for me. So
let me just be clear about this. As a TV guy, we want that kind of emotion. Like, it makes us a little bit more real when we're watching it. in real time. So just to give you an idea, and I don't know how much you're familiar with what we do here, but we do fight companions for these things. So we tend to cheers those who get finishes within regulation and people who just kind of get our general respect. So normally when I see somebody like you having some emotion on there, I go from busting your balls to like, well, I don't want to make fun of this kid now. Like, he should be happy. He won the whole thing. So it kind of hardens the rest of us who have no souls to actually go, I'm happy for this kid. Good for him. Because so many times you get people who it does look like it's almost nothing, but then they get backstage and it's all a big lie. And you see them crying and you see them getting there. And I go, well, why didn't you do that on stage, you dummy? And I think they realize that it's like they don't want to give the appearance like it's a big deal. But it is a big deal. You go through a lot of emotions that night. Can you tell us what might have been the roughest emotion you went through that evening?
Yeah, I think ultimately it was just, how long I felt like it's taken for my jiu-jitsu to get to the level that, it is now, and not even where I want it to be, but it's just been what seems like a really long journey. I've been doing jiu-jitsu ever since I could walk. And, I kind of grew up in a family of martial artists. I was kickboxing and boxing and wrestling. And, when I decided to really commit to my jiu-jitsu and focus, it felt like I kind of was a step behind from everyone that was really, focused on the game. And I just remember having a lot of like tough failures and a few successes here and there, but definitely not like where I kind of thought I was just growing up in the sport. You just assume like, oh, I've been doing it since I was a kid. I'm going to have success, but there's a whole, different group, of people who are committed to the craft. I was just like, I do it, I've grown up doing it. So yeah, I think it was like this slow build and trying to, not perfect, but just work towards the betterment of my craft, and just falling in love with jiu-jitsu and really like going like deep into the technique and deep into just every aspect that I could. And to get that result, it was just like, I think that was where the emotion really came from. Is it felt like I had sacrificed a lot and I had gone through so many ups and downs, and to finally, have that recognition for all the work I had put in, because I've seriously obsessed over it and just committed myself 100% fully to jiu-jitsu. And to have that result was a little overwhelming. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So
let's chart your journey, because I want to go all the way back to one of the last things I covered in person, which was Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds 2020. So how did your participation in that, how did that take place?
That was that the featherweights, right?
I think so. And that, yes, because that was back in March of 2020.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
right before we all
here.
went into quarantine and pandemic mode, like, you guys were the last thing I photographed, the last people that I interviewed. So when that shut down, and I remember not even touching people's hands at that one. I remember being like, I don't know what's going on, but you guys are all gross. And, here's a microphone, so kind of stay this distance away from me.
Right. Yeah, you got to get the boom pole.
So how did you get involved in that event?
Eddie reached out to me, or I reached out to Eddie rather, and just confirmed once again that I would be ready to go if the opportunity was there. Because I had competed at the inaugural Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds, and then was a last-minute replacement for EBI, the featherweights. I can't remember which one it was, but it was the one that John Kallenstein ended up winning. Mm-hmm. And so I was in Eddie's radar, and I just messaged him and just told him I was ready to go, and got the thumbs up and started training for that, which was cool, and it was like kind of going into the quarantine. So I feel like the quarantine kind of benefited my training, because it was just like really like a good like small group that I could just focus on. And I always have my brother, which is great. So I felt good going into that. and 145 is just, there's no cut for 145. It's easy. As long as I'm training and eating healthy, I can make the weight, no problem. But yeah, that was cool.
So they called you up, and you did well there. We'll talk a little bit about your first match a little bit later when it's more pertinent. But you get past the first round, you go to the second round, and then who do you have in that round at that tournament?
The second round,
Mm-hmm.
I had Imanari, the legendary Imanari.
So first of all, I mean, I know that when you're in the game, you can't let on anything. You can't be like, oh my God, it's Imanari, because you got to think, I got to beat this guy. But from a jiu-jitsu practitioner standpoint, you've been pestering Eddie to get in. You win your first match. Now you're in it. And most people enter it, and not everybody gets a win in a combat jiu-jitsu setting, let alone in this format. So when you're here, you're at the dance, what is going through your mind as you're entering that match?
Well, I was pretty focused. I was like, okay, first one's down. Like, I'm here to win. I'm here to win. And then I get in the match, and I think maybe I got a little flustered. I was like, I don't want to slap him. I feel like I'm disrespecting him or something. I was like, I don't want to disrespect this guy. Like, I can't slap him. Like, I just have to go jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu. Like, that's the honorable way. But I feel like I should have. Sorry about that.
You're good.
I feel like I should have, shown a little disrespect and been like, no, I'm here to take this from you. I'm sorry, but it's just business.
I'm sorry, Mr. Minari. I don't know if that's what they call you. I need to take this from you.
Yeah. Mind if I just slap you up a little bit? Yeah, no, but it was cool. It was interesting to share that match with them. And I did feel calm, and I was trying to show composure in it. And I felt good, to be honest. And I slipped up and stepped into his game, and I think showed I was trying to be a little too calm and just collected. And next thing I know, I was tapping from a heel hook entry. So I learned my lesson there.
I mean, lesson learned, of course. But I also remembered that being a pretty fun match because I was photographing it. And there was actually one moment where when you're photographing, it's hard to meme. So I didn't meme you right then and there. But I'm not against it. And I thought there was a moment when you were grabbing the legs that I was like, dude, it looks like he's about to put a sharpshooter on somebody. Like, it looks like he's about to put a pro wrestling move on. And I just remember being like, I can't do this. And then lo and behold, I see Happy Rolling, a peer friend of mine, do it. And he makes that exact meme. And I go, you stole that from my brain. Like, just so that you know, that came from up here. Like, you always steal my shit.
Whacked it.
Having said that, though, I feel like the reason I wanted to bring this up, I feel like that was kind of the beginning of, okay, I've been to the dance, I've tasted it a little bit, and when you say that you got so obsessed, that started you on a year-long journey that took you to not just one, not just two, but maybe a couple more combat jiu-jitsu experiences. So tell me about the next combat kind of experience that you have, because I actually think, was it the jiu-jitsu overtime that happens next, or did you get involved with another combat jiu-jitsu event?
It was the jiu-jitsu overtime. I had heard, just through social media that was going to happen, and I jumped on it right away. Messaged Eddie and got the good to go, and I had a full camp for that. I was training, I was ready, fully prepared for that one. And then the combat, I stepped in on a combat tournament. I think it was a couple of weeks' notice on the lightweights, which my brother competed in. But yeah, JJOT was next. Pretty fun. It was different. It was different, kind of just preparing for the overtime. But yeah, I had been, putting in a lot of work up until JJOT, and I was, in my mind, when I first kind of got involved with Eddie and the promotion, and whether it was EBI or combat jiu-jitsu, I'd put it in my mind that, I wanted to have a title under Eddie's banner, whether it was combat, EBI, JJOT. I wanted a title under his banner. And so JJOT was next. And of course I took the opportunity. I was ready to go.
At any point, did you feel like that was a game show? Because to me, it looked like a game show because you just started off in a position where you go, okay, well, he's got my back. Forget a match. Didn't happen. And come
Yeah,
botch. And you go, hold up. This is weird as fuck. Like, it was our version of a slam dunk contest. So, what did it
totally.
feel like? Were you guys obsessing in your training over just that? Because you said you got a full camp from that. And all I can think about with a full camp is you show up at the beginning of practice and they go, all right, EBI rounds. And then an hour later you go, all right, we're done for today.
Yeah. Um, yeah, honestly, I was just trying to level up my jiu-jitsu overall, but we were doing a lot more overtime rounds. Like we would spend, a good amount of time on overtime rounds, and I would just have fresh guys come in on me every time, take my back. And also, I think I focused a little too much on the defensive aspect. I was just like, oh, get on my back, get on my arm. That I was like, okay, I actually got to focus on like the finishing aspect as well. But yeah, it was interesting. The submission shootout, is what everyone was calling it. I was just like, I got to be super warmed up. Like, I don't want to be cold. I want to be slippery, So I was staying warm in the back. Like every match, I threw my sweater back on. I would move around. But now I'm like, I'm not giving these guys an edge. Like, I'm not about to get I'm staying slippery here. But it was interesting. I just felt like, it wasn't like the full event, but I feel like it was just like a good, almost practice, leading up to another EBI or another combat jiu-jitsu. I didn't feel like JJOT was gonna take over and they're planning on doing a bunch of JJOT shows. But I felt like it was just a good opportunity for growth in jiu-jitsu and, in that EBI combat jiu-jitsu format, because ultimately that it was my goal to compete in the next EBI or the next combat jiu-jitsu. So I was happy to do this.
Absolutely. And I was pretty impressed all the way through because I remembered seeing that one too and just thinking like, okay, man, you're putting on a good show here. That's a couple fun events, back to back. And then you mentioned you kind of had this great experience from it. I was curious, was there anything that happened behind the scenes that stuck out to you? Was there anything about that experience that was fun? Because I heard there were training sessions that were happening. I heard that there was nonsense that was going on because, again, that was like right in the we're over it part of the pandemic for most people. So for a lot of you guys, it was almost your first at bat since the craziness happened.
Yeah, it was fun. It's honestly like it's always fun doing any event with Eddie. Eddie's like such a funny dude, and attracts a good crowd. And that event particularly, like I felt like all the athletes were kind of like getting along really well, and we had this like camaraderie. There was like an Instagram group chat, and we were just kind of all staying on the same page. And at some point, we all did decide that we were going to get a training session in afterwards because the venue was at Victor Davila's gym. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, well, because everybody wanted to really roll. They were like, okay, we're doing the overtime rounds, but we should all get some rolls in, So we put a group chat together and we all met up the morning after to get like a private training session in. And that was cool. I think, some of my greatest takeaways from that were one, just like rolling with, the guys like Frank and Ethan and Keith. That was kind of the moment my brother and I like officially met Keith and started hanging out with him a little bit. Shout out to Keith Krikorian. Love that man.
Don't shout him out. He's probably watching this and I don't want him to feel good.
He should, man. I freaking love that guy. So yeah. It was cool. It was awesome to get that training session. And I feel like, because my brother and I, not only like do we love doing jiu-jitsu, but we watch all these guys. Like we watch all the matches. We keep up with, all the top guys. So to roll around with them was really fun.
I swear to God, I thought I was so angry after I heard you guys all got together and trained because I have multiple sources who are there. Again, I'm not there covering it, but I get secondhand nature of all of these things. So people who don't know that I know are kind of surprised when they go, wait, that happened? And I was like, yeah, I got spies there. I got eyes everywhere, my friends.
You got eyes on the inside.
But I will tell you, those lasting friendships last so hard that even Keith, when I wasn't directly talking to him this weekend about combat jiu-jitsu, texts me and just goes, "Oh, what about Elias? Oh man, what a star-making turn!" And I was like, "Yeah, I was watching it. It's just like." I just thought that it was random to get a text from Keith who's just like, "Oh boy, I just want to talk to somebody." Oh, that was great. So I love the
Perfect.
fact that even sliding into my DMs as if I wasn't watching it live, or to just talk with somebody about how great your performance was. Let's build to another thing. You mentioned your brother, and then I think it's about this time that you and your brother end up getting on the same card, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now look, I don't have siblings who train. And I think that it is the dopest thing in the world to have a sibling that you can train with, especially during quarantine. Super jealous of you.
Yeah.
What is the kind of either frantic energy or amazing energy that comes from being on the same card with your brother?
Um, it was good energy for sure. It was kind of a last minute decision for me. I stepped in. I think it was like maybe 2 weeks notice or a week notice or something. I can't quite remember, but it was cool. I feel like it wasn't like a super big deal. Um, we competed in tournaments together before, and yeah, it was just fun that we both had an opportunity to showcase our jiu-jitsu, um, hang out in Cancun together. That was cool, and I felt like it was just like a good opportunity for us both. But there wasn't like any like nerves or anything going in. I mean, we always get nervous to watch each other, but um, or coach each other. But it was cool. It was good overall. Nothing crazy.
What is the best thing that your brother yelled out as a coach to you when you were competing?
Ooh, in that tournament specifically, or just anytime?
I'll take that tournament specifically because I would like to ask you the same question, just opposite. But I'm going to start with this, and we can expand it to in general because it sounds like you've got something in general.
I actually don't think I have anything in general. The one thing I will say is Laird is very composed in the corner, and it helps a lot. Like, um, he's very good at seeing things, outside my perspective, and giving me, good cues here and there, short, simple, and straight to the point. Um, and it's something that I feel like he's just gotten so much better at, over the years, especially in this last tournament. I just feel like our communication was on another level, and it's awesome to have him in my corner. He stays very calm, very composed, and doesn't get over energized or excited. It's great. I don't think there's anything like funny. Maybe he's told me to just like break the arm before. There's so many people who are so bendy, and he's like, just break it, man. I'm like, I'm trying to break it. Like, I'm trying. It's not working. But yeah, no, it's awesome to have him in my corner. He's
Now, juxtapose that with the way you are, because I like when people compliment the other on being calm and composed, as if there's some sort of weird Joe Pesci in the relationship that's flying off the handle, because that's really not how I see you. But how are you juxtaposed to how your brother is?
in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten better over the years. I used to scream at him, but he has inspired me to just stay calm, stay composed in the corner, and just let him do his thing. But like he does, just try to give him an outsider's perspective, and maybe give him some cues that he's not seeing. But I think that he takes the cake on being the most calm for sure. I'm trying from the corner, but my palms are so freaking sweaty. I'm just like, when he's going, I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. I can put on the game face. And stay calm. But
I want to bring this up real quick. We did get a note from the esteemed Brandon McCatherine, who just said, "Yo, yo, yo, great job, kiddo." But he says it in the warm, syrupy Southern voice that he has, that I'm sure you're going to be able to replay for years on end with all of your highlights from this weekend, which I actually, this time I put on the sound because I normally don't listen to it. But Brendan's a longtime friend of the show, so getting that is a huge compliment from him.
Brandon is awesome. Yeah. Funny story, actually. Brandon, the first time I met Brandon was when he commentated for Ultimate Mat Warriors. And that was back when I went against Chris Drozd. I think it was at 145. But yeah, just ever since then, always appreciated Brandon. He's a super kind individual, very supportive. I was super grateful to meet him then, and then kind of continue a bit of a relationship afterwards. We kind of stayed in touch on Instagram, and then of course competing in Eddie Bravo's events. I always saw him there. And yeah, shout out to Brandon McCaffrey for sure. He's awesome.
Not kind on the mats, but I'll leave that to a different discussion at a different time. I would like to point this out though. So you say that you and your brother have this connection, and it's great. You guys compete at this event. You juxtapose that. You say that's how you are as compared to him and his calm stoicness. You've learned to integrate that. But you said in general, as if there might be some story that you are not quite sharing yet. So has there been a moment when your brother was not the calm and stoic person that you needed, or did something out of the ordinary?
I can't really say for sure. He's always been like pretty composed in the corner. When we were younger, we used to scream at each other a lot. Like, it was much more intense. We didn't have like the calm nature. But I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I blocked something out from my memory because he scared me so much.
Well, let's go ahead and fast forward, because what's nice about those experiences is that there's some good moments that I think you build, but you sound like a person who was using that as fuel and using that opportunity to train with a very focused style of training during the pandemic and channel that to the next thing. When did you know you were going to be competing in this current version of Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds?
The one that I just did, that one. I knew about it pretty much as soon as it was announced. Right when it was announced, I messaged Eddie, because 135 is just like, I feel like that's my professional competition weight. I feel like that's not a hard cut for me. It's just right in terms of like being optimized and in prime physical condition. And so as soon as I heard the announcement, I messaged him right away. And, he asked me if I could make 135 same day. Yes. And then, I was in,
Okay.
So
I would like for you now to kind of take me match by match, because these are all pretty dope. And friend of the show, Isaac Cordova, was your first match at this recent one. Were you familiar with him? Because I know him because I'm out here in SoCal. So he's a friend of our show. I've called him the wrong name on the broadcast. I know him well enough to do that. So for you and your grappling with him, was this a new experience, or was this an opponent that you had at least some familiarity with?
It was relatively new. I wasn't sure who I was going to be matched up against in the first round. I think until 2 or 3 days before the event is when they released the bracket. So, the most I knew about him was that he had won the 10th Planet qualifier, which was cool. I had watched like a little bit on him, just from Instagram and whatnot. But other than that, I just, I tried to just focus on, what I needed to do in order to get to the finals. I think, looking back, I may have underestimated him a little bit. He was very strong, great competitor, and we had a fun kind of back and forth match. But yeah, it was cool. It was a good first round matchup.
What was the key to success in that match?
I think definitely kind of staying composed and not. I knew, I wanted to get the finish, and I wanted to do it, in a way where I wasn't chasing anything or jumping after anything. I just wanted to slowly work towards finishing, and also, it's the first round, so I'm trying to figure out, who I'm dealing with here and what kind of competitor he is. I saw a couple things on him, but you never know until you start to feel him out. I felt like he was pretty aggressive from the start. I was just trying to play my game, not get sucked into anyone else's game. I was trying to do, what I do best. I was trying to showcase my skills on the top and on the bottom. And I feel like towards the end, I started to kind of take control of the match. But tight defense from him. And from the very beginning, I thought I had him with the armbar. I had it fully extended. I mean, he is a hypermobile human being. I don't know if he's just hypermobile or if he's just a straight badass and was not going to tap. But props to him for just wiggling his way out of that. I mean, I thought for sure I had secured the finish right there. That's so frustrating when you're just cranking on it for, I don't know, 30 seconds or something, and they release it and you're like, damn it. This is all right. Here we go. Your game. And then he starts coming forward on me and I'm like, okay, here we go. Overtime hit, and same thing. I didn't want to hunt, for the submission, but rather like capitalize on opportunity. So I was making sure that I just stayed composed, kept my, position solid. I just wanted to keep the position solid and make sure that I didn't allow for any openings. And once we got to overtime, I think that people saw that I wasn't allowing him to open up in any way.
Yeah, I thought you looked sharp, and you and me both thought that armbar was done, because I looked at that and I was not expecting 3, 4, 5 rolls out of it, because that was intense, man. You normally only see those kind of rolls out of, say, like a heel hook when somebody's trying to go out of bounds. And I was just like, man, Dova's got some really solid escape here. Like, I've never seen that in him. Like, that looked like Yoda and Attack of the Clones going nuts and just twirling around. And I was like, damn, dude, that's amazing. So I thought that was definitely a highlight. At this point, are you also watching what's unfolding around you? Because I don't know if you really picked up in the first round, but the arm joint manipulation that's happening, at least to the rest of us, I think made all of us kind of collectively throw up in our faces. And yet, homeboy was just fine. Are you processing that, or is that something kind of clip that you see like the next day?
Are we referring to my submission or my attack on the arm, or Marcelo Cohen's?
We're talking about Marcelo Cohen's, because yours was the lead off. Yours was just kind of the okay, that's what jiu-jitsu's supposed to look like. Marcelo Cohen's sort of Americanas and Kimuras look like the type of stuff that you see in the movie Saw, or that you charge people in a horror film and they all gasp in large audiences. So I wasn't sure if this is even something that you're watching.
We were watching it. Yeah, we had UFC Fight Pass on. I think it was my phone in the back, and oh man, everyone was queasy. We were like, oh my gosh, it's gonna snap. And at one point, Marcelo he double gripped on the forearm and just started cranking it over, and I was just waiting for the moment when it reaches the tipping point and then just falls way over. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. I don't want to watch this. But it was so funny. He came back in, not Marcelo, but his opponent. I don't want to mispronounce his name. Talon or something.
Talon, I thought it was Yusei or something.
Yeah, Talon Yusa. But he was like, oh yeah, no, I mean from judo, my shoulders are so flexible, and I was like, of course you guys would be matched up together. Like, of course the guy that's the Kimura guy would be matched up against the flexible shoulder guy. Like, that's awesome.
Well, I'm glad that you had the same reaction as we do, because people just think when you get into this, you're all psychopaths with a high tolerance for seeing that kind of stuff. But you're not that different from us. I would like to go into your next match. You, Zack Schneider, you get the armbar in that. How were you able to set that up?
So, I felt like I set that up by definitely kind of exhausting him with the passing. He had a tough match in the first round, and I was aware of that. And so I knew I kind of wanted to be on top and execute my passing skills. I knew I could kind of tire him out. I was going from side to side, really trying to get an opening. He was pretty good about keeping his knees and elbows together, and allowing me to like fully secure the pass. But I wasn't too worried about that. I just wanted to keep chopping at the tree, if you will, just keep chopping until I was able to get to a side control position. And then from there, look to just sort of isolate limbs, get to a north-south position. I had the far underhook on the right side. And, as soon as I got him with the back exposure, it was, I was able to shoot my leg in, kind of get to that armbar position. I'm so, I feel very comfortable, attacking the armbar just in terms of, where my upper body and my lower body need to be. I feel like there's a strong connection there. I need to, maintain lower body position and while fighting the arm, because I feel like a lot of escapes happen when they're so focused on the arm that they forget to lock down the lower part. So I knew that right there it was locked in tight. Unless he was as hypermobile as Dova Dog, then I was gonna get this armbar.
Well, juxtapose that with your next match, which is Ben Eddy, who's had a lot of success in combat jiu-jitsu himself. Everybody's aware that his rubber guard is from hell. What were you expecting, and what was the expectation from that?
Yeah, that was probably the match that my brother was most nervous for, just because Ben is so dangerous from the bottom, and in terms of his rubber guard is just an excellent finisher. So my whole thought process going in was, posture. If I just don't allow him to control my posture, I can execute my passing skills. I can stay on bottom. I wanted to show people that I can play bottom. I can play legs. I can do top passing. I feel like a lot of people that run into the issue of a high level rubber guard, if you will, are people who are trying to do like a low pressure pass. For me, it was just about maintaining posture, and same thing. I wasn't afraid to kind of chop away, just go from side to side, tire them out, find my opening when it was there. And eventually I started to open him up in different areas and start to secure a couple passes. And he did a good job about clearing the space and getting back to his guard. The same thing. I was just trying to keep the pressure on. And there were a couple moments where he might have controlled my posture, and I just backed out. I wasn't about to play into his game at all. I just knew I had to keep the pressure on, get him tired, and get to some sort of pass, and then ultimately maybe lock down the upper body, get to another arm bar, Kimura trap, anything or hop to the back. But yeah, I tried to be as intelligent as I could be going against a specialist like him, as someone who's a high level finisher from that rubber guard position.
I felt like when I was watching it here, like it looked like a long 10-minute drill session on passing and guard retention, because when I would look, I was like, yo, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't know how these guys are doing it. I just know that you look like you had passed guard X many times. He looked like he had re-guard so many times. And I go, okay, well, this is what it's going to be like. So kudos to these gents. Before we go on to the overtime on that, I was very curious to know, did you feel at this event, up until this point, like your use of slaps were getting the kind of results that you wanted?
To be honest, I had to remind myself that like I could slap in there because I didn't really practice implementing slaps too much in the training leading up to it. For me, it was all about just having the best jiu-jitsu. I just wanted my jiu-jitsu to be at the highest level that it could be when I stepped on the mats for the tournament. So I kind of had to remind myself to slap every now and then, and I'd remind myself when I got slapped, I was like, okay, yeah, I can slap. But for me, I wasn't gonna allow slaps to rule out like or take control of any part of the game. I just wanted to keep focusing on how my jiu-jitsu was gonna get me to where I wanted to be. So I wasn't super slap heavy this tournament, and also I didn't want to waste my energy in that area. I just wanted to keep progressing with my jiu-jitsu. So I did have to remind myself, but usually I felt like when I got to a position where I could slap, it was just like maybe to open something up, but also just to throw them off real quick. Just like, here, I'll throw a slap in your face, remind you that I can slap too, and then keep passing or something.
Did anything surprise you in the overtime?
With Ben?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. He almost had my arm for sure. I didn't want him to throw that like figure four around my forearm, because I just know that sucks. And Ben being with 10 Planet Freaks and just being in the 10 Planet system is also a high level finisher from overtime positions. And kind of when someone elects armbar right away or multiple times, that's their comfort. That they're prepared to submit from there. And so I was just I had to think about inching my way out. I was not about to explode unless the space was there. But for me, I was, I had to be calculated. I had to be calm, with what my decisions were in terms of the mechanics of escaping. I wasn't about to explode on a guy like Benetti where he would capitalize on an explosive movement from me. So yeah, he was very close to finishing one of the arm bars. And luckily I managed to escape. And it was at that moment in the semis where I really told myself, I was like, I'm gonna be in the finals, so Ben's gonna have to break my arm, or do something, because I am not tapping to an arm bar. He's gonna have to break my arm. I'm on the path to the finals right now. I'm like, I had made that decision, so I was there. I wasn't about to let him take it from me. But yeah, very technical match for both of us, and overall a great learning experience. I was happy to share the mats with Ben. He's awesome.
Well, now we move into the finals, and you mentioned that you were watching a little bit about the different matches that were happening on your Fight Pass, which, by the way, is kind of ridiculous that that's how you have to watch the event live when you're at the event. Is you're like, well, hey, I need a 1 week trial. Does somebody want to sign up real quick on my phone so I can get that here? That'd be great. But you're obviously going against an opponent that you already knew. So you are probably, I'm sure, just keeping an eye on him. But is there an element of, okay, I've beaten him before, I can do this? Like it's within your grasp at this point.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I knew that if Red made it to the finals, and I was in the finals with him, I felt I felt like I'd have the edge, just because I do have the win over him. And, just watching his matches, Red is so good, like positionally and in terms of his balance and never really being out of balance or knocked over. Um, but that's his game. He's top heavy, wants to get the takedown, and I knew that making it to the finals with him, the regulation was going to be way different than our first exchange, because I was going to attack more from the bottom. I was going to stand a little more, try my best to, show the improvements I had made in my overall game. And I wasn't afraid to go on bottom with him. I felt like there was a chance that I could get in on a leg or get to a submission there. But yeah, it ended up going to overtime again. But I felt like I showed a lot of improvement in the regulation, because if you go back and look at our last match, a lot of people will say that he kind of controlled the regulation in our first match, which in terms of the wrestling, I feel like he did. I think I had more submission attempts in our first match, and yeah, I wanted to show people that I'm there in regulation. Like this guy's not gonna one up me in the regulation. Like I'm here the whole time. Like whether I finish him in regulation or whether it goes to overtime, like I'm here to be dominant. I'm not here just to do the same thing or show everyone that it's going to be the same match. I wanted different results for sure.
It was getting razor thin in terms of ride time, escape time, however you want to brand it. How concerned about that were you? Does that register for you at that moment? Because I know there's not an official way to know. Maybe your brother might be kind of giving you some hints as to where you're going, but does that even play a role when you're about to go into that third period?
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely, if it's that close, I just assume that I'm down. I'm down on time. I have to submit him, because I don't even want to focus on the time at that point. It was razor close. And in my head, I was like, okay, I'm just going to assume I'm down on time. Cause he had a great first round, on my back, a very solid control positionally. It was really tough for me to escape. I don't actually think I escaped, in the first round of overtime. So yeah, I just assumed I was down. And
let's stay on that for a second. How was your face? Because he was cranking as hard as he could at certain points, and I just kept looking at you and being like, you were just eating that dude. Like, people would ask me, they're like, well, what's kind of happening here? How is he defending that? How is he doing this? And I go, no, it just sucks. Life sucks right now, yeah. And that's what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I'm just embracing the suck at this point. Yeah, it was just that mentality. Like, I knew that at that point, the title is on the line. Like, Red is gonna have to put me out, because I'm not tapping. Like, I am gonna fight with everything I've got to peel the hand, get the arm off, whatever it takes. No way I'm tapping to just being uncomfortable. I was fully prepared to be unconscious if that was the case. I was determined to finish out the overtime as the champion or not. I wasn't going to give anything,
So having said that, you put him in danger in that third period. Was there a concern, especially because you had success with one armbar, you had somebody literally barrel rolling out of another one? Did you at any point think maybe he wouldn't tap because, again, how close it was and you getting that last minute adjustment? So I want you to answer that, but also walk us through the adjustment that you did make that was able to finish.
Yeah. So we get into the bottom of the third, and yeah, I elect to take the same arm that I took when I finished him in the third round at our previous, meeting a year ago. And so in my head, like I'm set to win. I've done this before. I can almost see it clearly. Like I can almost see it already happening. Like, so all I have to do is execute it. All I have to do is just get the finish here. And I remember, because I took the arm in the second round of overtime, and he had done a good job of escaping, and I knew I had to make a small adjustment so that I could get his arm extended while my hips still being in. And there was just a small adjustment I made with my post hand. So I had the arm, and it was just like a quick grab of his wrist so that his arm went from underneath my thigh to a gable grip. I believe it was a gable grip, but either way, fingers clasped or gable grip. And that's when I knew, okay, here's my opportunity to straighten the arm. This is where I want to be. I don't want him behind my thigh, And so it was that small adjustment that needed to be made. I needed to get him to the gable grip, or a 10-finger grip. And once it was there, same thing. Upper body, lower body, like gotta be in line here. I gotta, strengthen the legs, keep them locked down, and focus on the arm. And there was just this moment where I saw it, and my brother saw it. We were talking about it afterwards, and he said, as soon as you got to that 10-finger grip or the gable grip or whatever he had, him and I both know, my finishing rate from there was really, really, really good in terms of just I'm very comfortable in that armbar position, very comfortable like working the finish there. And so when I had him there, I was like, this is my opportunity. Like I have to take it. I have to get this arm straight. And there was a thought in my mind. I was like, maybe he'll just let his arm break. But I think my hips were in enough, and it was so tight, and there was so much leverage that it was very painful. And I do believe I would have broken the arm. And even had I broken it, I think that the connection that I had in the limited space that was there, I just would have kept cranking it, even if it had broken. So either, the ref was going to stop it, or Richard was going to tap. And fortunately for me, I got the tap and became the bantamweight champion. So,
did you get a sense of how much time was left? Was that ever discussed at any point?
Yeah, I think. How much time was left in that last period?
Yes, like how much was deficient? Because to me, it felt like maybe seconds, tenths of a second. And I know we're caught up in it. Also, I was drinking at the time. So when I'm watching it live, it feels like, oh my God, that just happened. If that had taken maybe 3 seconds longer, who knows if it would have gotten stopped. So did they ever announce, or do you look at it like scorecards at the end where you're just kind of like, hey, just curious, had I not done that? Like, what was the time?
Yeah, no, I actually had no idea, and it definitely didn't even cross my mind. I just knew that I wanted to get the finish. I think that had, I can't remember if I was thinking about this, during, but I remember, rewatching it today, and had I rode him out from there, I believe I was set to take the victory had I rode him out. But yeah, in my head, when I'm there, I'm like, I'm down, I'm down. I need to, it's too close to call. Like I got to finish him. So yeah.
Red is one of our favorite people. I have all the love in the world for that guy. And I know it was upsetting for him. I know where he's coming from. There's so many different narratives. Just in the same way you're emotional, I can understand why he's emotional. But he made sure to go and talk to you afterwards. What did he say to you after, when you were about to be announced as the winner of that?
I can't remember exactly what was said. He said congratulations and of course good job. Um, but one thing is, Red is a very humble competitor. In victory and defeat, he's very composed, and I truly am thankful for a competitor like Red. I mean, he's pushed me in a lot of ways, and he was the champion, and you know, I think that as a champion, he's a really great human being, great competitor, and I took him very, very seriously. I didn't want to neglect his skills in any way. Um, so yeah, we had a moment after the fight, and then kind of after I had done my interview and whatnot, and just a really good interaction. Thanked him for pushing me, and yeah, it's an honor to share the mats with a guy like Red, and I think that it's very possible that him and I compete against one another in the future again. And if not, maybe train together. Either way, fan of the guy for sure, and thankful that I got to share the mats with him.
Very nice of you to say as well. So I think that's pretty dope. I got a couple notes here. Of course, Hene comes in, oh shit, what's good, champ? Congrats, homie. But then he asks a question that I'm not really sure I have information on, but he says, important question, how many Mexican mamacitas did you get at the club after you won?
Zero.
Okay, well, apparently that championship belt doesn't necessarily work for everything.
No, my brother and I, the first concern was just getting food in and eating as much as possible. Also, I've got a girlfriend who I'm just madly in love with, and yeah, I was just excited to hang out with my brother, celebrate that victory, eat a bunch of food, cake, ice cream, pizza, whatever I could get my hands on with the room service. So that was my celebration right there.
Wait, was that all of the foods? Did you order everything on the menu? Because I know that you're mentioning it, but I don't know what's real and what's not when you just kind of said it theoretically.
We ordered almost everything that was on the late night menu because, I mean, we just had to. We were like, it's our last night here. Like, let's just order everything that's on the late night menu. I think there was like maybe 2 things that we didn't order. But yeah, I'm talking nachos, 2 pizzas. I had a burger. We had ice cream. I had carrot cake. You know what was funny is there had been so many things I had envisioned, for this tournament and for my matches, to the point of the belt being wrapped around my waist. At so much, so many visions of that, prior to the event. And one thing I kept thinking, I was like, gosh, I want some carrot cake. I want some carrot cake after my tournament. I don't know why. I'm not even like a carrot cake guy, but it was just in my head. I was like, I need some carrot cake after the tournament. And of course, like there's like 4 desserts on the late night menu, carrot cake being one of them. I was like, it's meant to be. It's meant to be. I was supposed to have this victory carrot cake.
Good for you, man. I'm glad you were able to get that. I mean, honestly, most of the times when I'm back there interviewing people, they have to do the interview with me before they go get food. So there have been years where I've stopped Gary or Gordon at the EBIs in years past, and like inevitably somebody on their team's super pissed I'm talking to them because I'm preventing them all from going out and eating. And I remember looking at them and being like, shut the fuck up. I'm in the middle of an interview. You'll eat when I'm good and ready to let you eat. And, I mean, it pays off dividends for me. So I'm glad that you were able to do that. Was there any additional training that you got to get in before you got home, or was it just a straight flight home as soon as you were done that night?
Yeah, it was, we hung out that night, woke up the next morning and had to get to the airport relatively soon. My brother and I had breakfast, talked about the victory a little more. I'll be there next time. I'll hook you up. Uh, um, yeah, we had breakfast, had a quick conversation with Eddie, ran into him in the lobby. Um, and yeah, and then we got on our plane, headed back home, and yeah, it was good to be back. It was good to come back home, with the belt on the plane, and just the whole experience was a very, surreal experience for me. A long time coming, it felt like. So.
What was the best experience or reaction that you got when you got back? Because I imagine you made it back to your gym. I know because you've been training. What was the best reaction that you got?
Actually, the best reaction that I got was after the event. When I was back in my hotel room, I FaceTimed my, dad. My stepmom was there with my stepsisters, and I FaceTimed my sister Lola as well, and my girlfriend, and just those reactions were the best for me because people, they're the closest ones, and they were feeling that emotion with me. And I heard my dad cried, which was cool. Um, and it was just that was the best, moment for me, was to share that, with my brother beside me. For us, even before that, after, I had won, we were hanging out in the warm-up room, and it was just, a very special moment, just to, hug my brother and thank him for, all the ways in which he's made me a better, person, martial artist, competitor, human, to look at the belt together, and then, yeah, to share it over the FaceTime with, my family, friends. That was the coolest. Yeah, I don't know. I will never forget, moments like that. So.
Good for you. That's well earned, man. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but it's just with those of us who don't have siblings, we'll never know that connection in terms of jiu-jitsu for doing it together. So it is a very rare bond to have, and I think that is so amazing that you get to share that experience. So very, very happy for you, and that you get to also FaceTime the family. I think that's pretty dope, especially when they can't be there. I know.
Yeah.
That's, pro con of going to Mexico. Can the family come? Who's allowed in the audience? How does this work? Those are the things that I know go through many competitors' heads.
Yeah.
I want to kind of start putting a button on this, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to start circling third here, and I realize we really even get into your beginnings in jiu-jitsu. This just felt like such a great story to me because I was sitting here watching you for the past year compete, and I was just making notes the whole time of, yeah, all right, this kid's good. Like, there's something here. And when you watch that and you see the end result that just happens on Sunday, I knew I wanted to talk to you, but I knew I wanted to be a whole conversation about how you were able to manifest this from getting that taste, that first winning in the combat jiu-jitsu setting, and then in a year's time, looking back and then saying, oh, I kind of just did it. Yeah. I guess the thing I want you to maybe impress upon to others, because you kept talking about imagining it and making it happen. How did you manifest it, and how would you give that advice to those people who are looking to do the same thing? Because now you're etched in kind of the CJJ, EBI history books now. So what's the best advice you would give to those who are trying to emulate and maybe even do what you just did?
Right. I think the best advice I could give is just to have, an open mind to a fully open game in jiu-jitsu. From the top to the bottom to, all the, positional aspects of it. I would say never get comfortable. And, the moment you start to get comfortable with one area or something you feel you're really good at, and you lean into that, you part ways with, all of these other amazing aspects, this whole ocean of technique that you're missing out on diving into. And I just became, so obsessed with jiu-jitsu at one point, and so obsessed with, the vastness of it, and how it's just, it seems never ending in terms of, what's possible from, just from, the bottom game or the top game. And I think, first off, for a competitor, if they're looking for advice, it's like, well, what are your goals? Are you, wanting to be a world champion? Are you wanting to compete at the highest level? Gradually, climb that ladder towards your black belt, and then keep competing at black belt. And if that's the case, you have to become obsessed with the game overall, and you can never get to a moment where you feel like your game is decided. Like, this is what I'm really good at. I'm a berimbolo guy. I'm a guard player. I'm a top heavy guy. Like, this is what I do. I'm an athletic top heavy guy, or girl. Just constantly looking to improve in all aspects, because ultimately, like, that is what makes it the most fun. It is that it is endless, and there are all these ways to improve, and all of these areas in which you can grow, and up your skills. And it's just like leveling up as a video game character or something. You're just like increasing your skill set over in your top submissions, in your leg lock game. And it's just like, I'm just trying to like level up in all of these different areas, and then take a look at like my overall, skills, my stats. So yeah, just becoming obsessed with, jiu-jitsu as a whole. And to be honest, I mean, I am just in love with jiu-jitsu, and in love with, learning new techniques, and just continuing to, find myself within jiu-jitsu, and what I'm capable of, So I think it's been, such an amazing journey from that, like we're talking about a year ago, and so much just obsession with the whole game, just what I want to achieve, the things I want to do, even after getting this title. I feel like this is just the beginning of kind of where I really wanted to be, with, my skill set. And I'm still young, and, after watching it today, I'm just thinking about how many areas I want to improve, and things I'm like already like questioning. I'm like, why would I do that? It's like so many things I want to improve on. And that's just beautiful to me, because learning this art is just like the coolest thing. It's so cool, like how vast it is, and how much there is. And if you're a young competitor, or a competitor at all, just, find a way to like shape your perspective in the widest way possible. Look at the game from all angles, and never get comfortable with an area, and never become an area. So that's kind of a statement, but I felt like I had to get it out.
It's fine. Like, no one's gonna take this and run with it in print. It'd be like, well, that doesn't mean anything. Like, it's not how this works. I think it's helpful to a number of people, because as much as people want to complicate it, or oversimplify it, or grandiose these things, a lot of it comes down to just the hard work, and I'm sure the kind of approach that you have. But perspective is so important, that if you don't put that perspective with it, sometimes it's just hard work without being smart with the hard work. So I think it's actually good to hear how to shape it in a quantitative form. So I appreciate you for giving that insight.
Yeah, I think people that, think that they're really good at jiu-jitsu don't actually know how, deep jiu-jitsu goes. For me, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I still have so much to learn. I'm like at the beginning chapters right now.
Well, you mentioned this is the start of a new journey. My question, as we get to this home plate, what is next? Like, what are you envisioning that is next?
I just want to keep training and keep getting better and keep, improving my skill set in every aspect that I can. Um, I have my, sights set on ADCC trials whenever they're gonna, hold those. Um, I mean, to be honest, like I'm just excited for competing and, whatever's next. But I feel like I showed, where Elias is right now, and not even, my full potential. And so I'm just excited to kind of keep building off this. It's my first kind of big achievement in jiu-jitsu, and still just the beginning. I want to keep building off this. And yeah, I don't know what exactly is next, but I can tell you I'll be 100% prepared. I am not going to be slacking in the gym. I am so excited to get back to, just training full time. I'm recovering a little bit. I'm taking some time to, chill, but my mind is never in, full chill mode. I'm always thinking about, ways in which to improve, and I will be ready for whatever's next. And I'm looking forward to, future competitions. So.
I just always imagine whatever training happens next, the training without slaps is the best training. So I'm pretty sure you're going to be happy to be getting back to not having to worry about that, having just done all of that. I would love to give you the opportunity to go and shout out any sponsors, anybody that you want to give recognition to who helped you get here. I know you mentioned your brother, you've already mentioned your family, but I don't know if there are other people who maybe contributed. I wanted to give you the floor to go ahead and say any kind of shout outs that you wanted to, sir. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Just thank you so much, of course, to my dad, who's, instilled jujitsu within me and given me the opportunity to just keep growing in this sport. Thank you to my brother, of course. I came into that tournament just wearing nothing but my father's name on my front and his, logo, our affiliation logo on the back. I don't have any, jiu-jitsu outfit sponsors, and, acquiring sponsors was, never a concern of mine. I just wanted to keep getting better and better at my skill set and eventually, allow my work to show what I'm capable of. And, finally with a world title in hand, I think that maybe now is the time to seek some sponsorship opportunities. But, for me, it wasn't super important until, I was where I needed to be or where I felt I needed to be. And I just want to keep climbing the ladder and get to the highest level that's possible for me. I will say I started a company with my dad. It's called Postrm, PSTRM.com. It's like a jiu-jitsu buy, sell, trade marketplace. So we're still kind of in the beginning phases of it, but you can check that out. Thank you to everyone that has supported me over the years. People that have opened up their gyms to me. You guys know who you are. I'm so grateful for everyone that's allowed me to be on the mats and train. And I look forward to continuing this journey and meeting a bunch of new people and just evolving as much as I can in this game. And thank you so much for having me on. This is all part of the dream and a really cool experience for me, cool new experience. And I'm trying my best to soak it all in.
Yeah, that's nice. I will tell you this. Here's why I'm going to yell at you. Why I'm going to yell at you, and it'll make sense in a second, is that at the very beginning when we do the pre-interview and I say, tell me anything that you want to plug, and you go, I can't think of anything I would want to mention. And we make it all the way through an hour plus interview. And at the very end when I say, all right, say whatever you want. Oh, my dad and I have a business. Why didn't I lead with that? Like, that's a thing. If I'm your dad watching this, I'm going to be like, what did I teach this kid?
Yeah. Yeah. You know how I do, man. You watch me compete. I'm keeping you on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Oh God. Yeah. All right. You and I are going to have words off air. Elias, I definitely want to commend you. I think that it is a remarkable not just one performance, not just one match. It's a really like a year's worth of work that I have been able to witness firsthand and in person, and then in the pandemic times, watch and cheers along to and have some fun with. And I really hope that you understand exactly the difficulty and the respect that you are deserved in this, because that is truly an amazing accomplishment. And that is part of the reason I like doing these interviews, is because I like to mark moments in time for athletes that they can kind of look back at in the future and go, oh yeah, I did do that. Even sometimes when they've gone on to do multiple other things or not. And in your case, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some other stuff. And I'm looking forward to bringing you back on at a different time. We'll do the whole origin story episode because you're due that as well. But this just had such a cool story to it that I really wanted to make sure we did this. So what we're going to do, we'll put a bookmark here. We'll invite you back on the show at a later time and date. But for now, I'm going to kick you off. I'm going to say thank you, kid, and I'll talk to you off air. But ladies and gentlemen, please put some respect on the name of young Elias Anderson.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on, for real. I'm very grateful.
Appreciate you, kid. I'll talk to you in just a second off air. All right, everybody, let's close up this bitch right now. All right, here's what's going to happen. This week, we're going to have you listen to the latest episode of Verbal Tap. Catch out that episode with myself, Kevin, and we interview our good friend Joe Selecki. He makes some picks, takes on Kevin's picks. It's wild. They've already lost matches since we did it. So some of the things we previewed are kind of nonsense now, but the episode's very funny because Joe is great. So go check that out. That's at Verbal Tap Cast. Also, give some love at all of these different places. Grappling Hour and at Verbal Tap Cast on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Dasher, Dancer, you know the whole jazz. And do us a solid and give us a 5-star review at both Grappling Hour and Verbal Tap Cast. It really does mean a lot and actually makes people way more aware of our shows. So would appreciate that if you would be so kind. Also, this weekend, we're going to return with another fight companion for the UFC 260. And then, yes, kids, and then 2 fight companions, not just one. There's also going to be a fight companion that we will do for Submission Underground, because we know a lot of those jokers too, and we're going to make fun of them just the same way that we did with Elias. Only he doesn't know that because he didn't watch that. So that's fine. But guess what? They all end up on the show at some point anyway. I guess that's what we're going to say to you. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Rafa Esparza. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys tonight. I hope you liked this story, and if you didn't, you kind of suck as a human being. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats. Eventually.